When I went into the Air Force, I was never on an air base when we had more than 3 black officers on the base. Never.
What state were you in?
Louisiana.
Okay.
Sergeant Adams comes to me. Sergeant Adams is a radio operator on a B-29 aircraft. He's black. The only black radio operator we had on the base. And he comes to me one afternoon, it was a Friday afternoon, and he's crying. And he asked if he could talk to me. I said, yes. And he told me, he said that he didn't know just what to do. That his aircraft commander, who was a captain, thought it was great fun and joke every time they would go out on a mission, a training mission, that he would get on the intercom as aircraft commander, and they'd have a crew of, I think it was 11 or 13 on their crew. And Adams would be the only black on the crew. And the aircraft commander's telling his nigger jokes. And so that he was sure that Adams would know about, asking Adams to how he saw this going on. You know, don't you see this is funny? This type of thing. So Adams comes to me and he tells me he doesn't know what to do. So I told him, I said, well, Sergeant Adams, I'm not sure I know what to do either. I said, but the only thing I'm telling you, you tell me that you have not retaliated, you have not made any statements or comments or done anything to get yourself into difficulty. I said, you just hold to that. I said, and give me a day or so and I'll get back to you. I didn't do a thing, but that next morning, which was a Saturday, we had our wing parade scheduled to be down on the flight line. And that meant that every person in Lake Charles, Louisiana, in the wing, had to be on that flight line for the parade. And I went to my wing commander's office, and he was lieutenant colonel, and I asked to see him. The master sergeant told me he was not certain that the colonel would see me, that I had to share with him what my concern and interest was, and I told him, no, I'm here to see the colonel. And so the colonel's desk was no further than that table over there from where I am. There was a doorway. The colonel heard me. He called the master sergeant in, asked him, who is it that's out there? So the master sergeant told him, he said, well, it's Lieutenant Johnson. He said he wants to see you. And I heard the colonel tell him, he says, well, have him come in here. So I walked in the door, popped a salute to the colonel, and I reached over to my uniform and I took off that fruit salad and I put it down on his desk. And he says, Lieutenant, he says, what are you doing? I said, Colonel, I said, I'm here, I said, because a very serious problem has been reported to me that exists within your wing. And I came to find out what you intend to do about it. So he looked at me, he says, well, what'd you put on my desk? I said, that's my Distinguished Flying Cross, my Air Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters, my Commendation Medal, and my service ribbons. I said, I'm giving them to you because they mean something to you. They don't mean a thing to me. So he says, why would you say that? I said, well, I said, you have the ability to be the commander of this wing, I said, and yet we have conduct going on in this wing, I said, that is not representative of what I fought for. I said, and I felt that you need to know that. So he told me, he said, well, I'm willing to listen, Lieutenant. He said, but the first thing, you pick those ribbons up off of my desk, he says, and you put them back where they belong. And so I said, I'll take them off your desk. He says, and I said, put them back where they belong. I put them back on my uniform. He says, now tell me what it is that you say is going on in this unit that you feel I need to tell you what I'm going to do about it. So I told him, I said, well, Sergeant Adams, sir, came to me. He told me that he has an aircraft commander that makes it his business that every time they take off on a flight, he feels that that's his occasion to feel that he has a right to tell what he considers to be nigger jokes and refer to Adams as a nigger and try to get him involved in this. I said, Sergeant Adams is the only black person on the crew. I said, and he came to me last night, tears in his eyes. I said, and he was very upset and emotional. I said, because he felt that he didn't want to get himself into difficulty, but he didn't know just how to go about doing something about it to get it to stop, so he doesn't have to undertake this. I said, and neither he nor I fought in combat for this. So the colonel told me, he says, well, Lieutenant Johnson, he says, you got the Distinguished Flying Cross. He says, I got the Distinguished Flying Cross. He says, you got some air medals? I got some air medals. He says, and mine don't mean any more to me than yours should mean to you. He says, so that isn't what this is about. He says, now, I didn't know anything about what you're telling me. He says, but I'm going to make it my business to find out about it. He says, now you go back to your unit because we got a parade that's coming up. He says, and I'll talk to you once I've had an opportunity to inquire further into the matter.
He did agree to talk to you later, which he didn't have to do.
Didn't have to do. And he didn't. And he didn't talk to me later. What he did, when the parade people assembled.
He called the sergeant forward?
No. Told the major, the adjutant, told him to, he says, put the wing at ease. And so the adjutant called everybody to attention, at ease. No, he said parade rest, I think was. Put everybody at parade rest. And they went to parade rest. He then came out, strode up in front of them and stood in the middle of the entire wing. And you saw him spread out there, and you could hear a pin drop, and he had the kind of voice, command voice. And he told me, he said, I want you to listen very closely. He said, something happened in my office this morning that displeased me. He said, I had one of my officers to come into my office and tell me that he felt that there was a problem that exists in this wing that I should know about, and he wanted to know what I was going to do about it. He said, that officer told me that we have an aircraft commander flying a plane in one of our wings here. He says, and he told me that that aircraft commander has a radio operator who claims that his aircraft commander is using bigoted and racist statements while that airplane is on a mission, a duly authorized and ordered mission. He said, and the radio operator has been forced to undergo being called a nigger, he says, while he's on duty. He said, the lieutenant asked me what I was going to do about it. He said, no, he said, the lieutenant asked me how I felt about it. He says, the lieutenant asked me how I felt about it. He says, I don't have any feelings about it.
He didn't have to. With his rank.
No, he says, I don't have any feelings about it. He said, I took an oath when I became an officer in this Air Force. And my oath was to uphold the Constitution of the United States and to carry out all duly authorized military orders that were handed down to me. He says, and I think it was Truman, says President Truman handed down an executive order
11488,
saying there would be no further discrimination within the United States military service. He said, that's how the president feels about it. He says, that's how we all feel about it. He said, because we're sworn to uphold the Constitution and all duly authorized orders of our superiors. He said, so it doesn't matter how I feel about it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. He says, I'm going to carry out the order that's been presented to me. He says, now tell each and every one of you. And he stopped and he looked from one end of the wing down the other end of the wing. He said, if I get any further information that from this point forward we have any action or conduct from an aircraft commander or anybody else in this outfit along these lines, he says, if I get the information today, he's not an aircraft commander this evening. He says, I don't care who it is in this outfit that serves under me. I serve under President Truman. He says, and I intend to see that his order is carried out. Any questions? Any questions? You could have heard a pin drop. He said, Adjutant, take over. You strolled on out. No, he never got back to me.
He didn't have to.
He never talked to me. He took care of business.
And he did it in a way that surprises me.
He took care of business.
He did it militarily.